The Caribbean's calm has shattered, replaced by a sense of mounting tension and uncertainty that hangs heavy in the humid air. The world watches as the U.S. deploys a powerful naval force off Venezuela's coast, transforming these turquoise waters into a potential battleground. President Trump's orders have sent advanced warships, state-of-the-art surveillance aircraft, and elite crews into the region, signaling a dramatic escalation. And, most provocatively, B-52 bombers now thunder near Venezuelan airspace, a clear and unmistakable warning to Caracas, and a show of force to the world. This is no routine patrol, it's the largest U.S. military buildup in the region in decades. Thousands of troops have been mobilized, and the scale of the operation is unprecedented in recent memory. A surge in intelligence assets, from satellite surveillance to cyber operations, signals Washington's readiness to act decisively if provoked. The world's media has descended on the region, capturing anxious crowds and tense city streets as the Caribbean teeters on the edge of conflict. Every move is scrutinized, every rumor amplified. The B-52s, designed for major warfare, are a message in themselves. The U.S. is prepared to go far beyond economic sanctions, if necessary, to achieve its aims. The Caribbean is now a stage for high-stakes power plays, with rival forces maneuvering and the threat of escalation looming larger with each passing day. For millions living in the region, uncertainty is the new normal. The question is no longer if something will happen, but when, and at what cost to their lives and futures. Once tranquil waters have become a flashpoint, a place where global ambitions collide, and the consequences could ripple far beyond Venezuela, shaping the fate of the entire hemisphere. Officially, the White House calls this a counter-narcotics mission, claiming Venezuela is a hub for drug trafficking. Warships and troops are justified as tools to stop smugglers, but the scale of the operation tells a different story. Deploying B-52s and special forces for drug interdiction strains credibility. Critics argue this is a pretext for regime change, not law enforcement. The administration sidesteps Congress by framing it as a fight against criminal organizations, blurring lines between policing and warfare. Analysts point out that most US-bound drugs don't even pass through the Caribbean. The real agenda, many believe, is destabilizing Maduro's regime under the cover of a drug war. The language of law enforcement masks a much larger, riskier geopolitical gambit. Beneath the anti-drug rhetoric lies the true objective: ousting President Nicolas Maduro. The U.S. has long viewed Maduro as illegitimate, imposing sanctions and backing opposition leaders. Now, military pressure aims to fracture the Venezuelan armed forces and force a leadership change. The strategy is maximum pressure, economic strangulation paired with the threat of overwhelming force. Critics warn this could backfire, uniting Venezuelans against foreign intervention and risking civil war. The high-stakes gamble force a tipping point without triggering a catastrophic conflict. President Trump has been characteristically blunt, declaring that Venezuela is surrounded and warning that things are happening you don't even know about. His words are meant to project strength and signal that the U.S. is taking decisive, perhaps even secretive, action against the Maduro regime. Trump's tone is unmistakable. He wants the world to know that the U.S. is watching closely and is prepared to act. He draws a direct line between Nicolas Maduro's government and the flow of drugs and instability throughout the region, suggesting that Venezuela has become a hub for criminal activity. Trump hints at covert operations and intelligence efforts, fueling speculation about what actions the U.S. might be taking behind the scenes. Meanwhile, Congresswoman Maria Salazar frames the Venezuelan crisis as a fight for freedom and democracy right in America's backyard. She emphasizes that this is not just a distant foreign conflict, but an urgent issue that directly affects the United States and its neighbors. Salazar argues that a democratic Venezuela could become a vital energy partner for the U.S., helping to stabilize global oil markets and reduce American dependence on hostile or unstable regions. She points out that energy security is national security, and that supporting democracy in Venezuela could have far-reaching economic benefits. Both Trump and Salazar connect the idea of military action not just to anti-drug efforts, but to broader strategic and economic interests. They suggest that U.S. involvement is about protecting American prosperity and influence in the hemisphere, not just stopping smugglers. The message is clear. This is about more than just intercepting drug shipments. It's about reshaping the balance of power in the region, supporting allies, and sending a message to adversaries that the U.S. will defend its interests. Trump's strongman stance and Salazar's passionate appeals for democracy are designed to rally support at home, energizing their political bases and sending a clear warning to Caracas that the U.S. is united and resolute. The administration's narrative is bold, decisive, and carefully crafted to justify high-risk moves. It's a message of action, not hesitation, aimed at both domestic and international audiences. The stakes are high. American security, regional stability, and the future of Venezuela itself all hang in the balance. The world is watching to see what happens next. Behind the show of force, covert U.S. operations are underway. Intelligence gathering, cyber disruption, and support for opposition networks. Special forces are deployed across the Caribbean, ready for rapid action and signaling U.S. capabilities to Venezuela's military. These shadow operations add deniability and complexity to the U.S. strategy. But not everyone in Washington agrees. Pentagon and intelligence officials are uneasy, fearing escalation without a clear endgame. Internal dissent highlights the mission's risks and the lack of consensus on how far to go. The administration projects unity, but behind closed doors, debate rages over rules of engagement and long-term strategy. The path forward is fraught with uncertainty, even among those tasked with executing the mission. The shadow war is as much about internal U.S. conflict as it is about Venezuela. In Venezuela, the U.S. military buildup sparks not only defiance from President Nicolas Maduro, but also a deep sense of anxiety and uncertainty among ordinary citizens. The atmosphere in the capital, Caracas, is tense, with people gathering in public spaces to watch the latest news unfold, their faces etched with worry and anticipation. Maduro responds by mobilizing both the military and civilian militias, framing the escalating crisis as a battle for Venezuela's sovereignty against what he calls U.S. imperialism. His speeches on national television are fiery, urging unity and resistance, and painting the standoff as a defining moment for the nation. Across major cities, the streets are heavily militarized. Checkpoints and armed patrols have become a daily sight, leaving neighborhoods feeling uneasy and on edge as if the country is holding its breath. Ordinary Venezuelans, already battered by years of economic hardship and political turmoil, find themselves deeply divided. Some, desperate for change, hope that U.S. intervention might bring relief or even a new beginning. Others, haunted by memories of past conflicts, fear that any escalation could plunge the country into devastating war and chaos. Sensing an opportunity, Maduro uses the external threat to rally his supporters, intensify his crackdown on dissent, and further tighten his grip on power. Protests are met with force, and opposition voices are silenced under the pretext of national security. Ironically, the American show of force, intended to weaken Maduro's regime, ends up reinforcing his narrative of resistance and defiance, allowing him to portray himself as the nation's defender. The military's public displays of loyalty, parades, salutes, and declarations of readiness project an image of unity and determination, signaling that they are prepared for a drawn-out standoff. Meanwhile, for millions of Venezuelans, daily life is overshadowed by growing uncertainty and fear. As shortages worsen and the threat of conflict looms, families wonder what the future holds in this dangerous geopolitical contest. Hopes for peace are fading, and the nation braces itself for whatever may come next, caught between hope and dread. The standoff has transformed daily routines into a tense waiting game, with every conversation and glance reflecting the anxiety of a country whose future hangs in the balance. Around the globe, world leaders and citizens alike watch closely, as Venezuela stands on the brink, its fate uncertain, its people hoping for a resolution that seems just out of reach. The Trump administration's actions have ignited fierce legal and ethical debates at home. By calling it a counter-narcotics mission, the White House claims broad authority, sidestepping Congress. Critics warn this sets a dangerous precedent, letting presidents wage war with minimal oversight. Treating suspected smugglers as enemy combatants raises serious human rights concerns. The line between policing and warfare blurs, with due process and international law at stake. legal and ethical battles rage in Washington, shaping not just Venezuela policy, but the future of U.S. military power. The outcome will define how and when America goes to war. The Caribbean standoff has brought Venezuela and the region to a dangerous crossroads. U.S. and Venezuelan forces are in close quarters, raising the risk of accidental or deliberate conflict. Both Trump and Maduro refuse to back down, making a peaceful resolution elusive. The best hope is a negotiated transition, but Maduro's grip remains strong and the opposition's future uncertain. If pressure fails, escalation could draw in regional and global powers, with catastrophic humanitarian fallout. Venezuela is trapped between foreign pressure and authoritarian rule, its fate hanging in the balance. The next moves by Washington and Caracas will shape the region for years to come. The world waits, hoping for peace, but bracing for a storm decades in the making.